And welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be looking at a TierZoo video. We doing animals this week because I want to, and it's my birthday, so I can do what I want to, regardless on if people are going to watch it or not. So today we're talking about hyenas and TierZoo. It's been a minute since I've done a TierZoo video, but I've always enjoyed them. So I hope that you enjoy this one as well. Let's talk about, are hyenas overpowered?
You've made it halfway! Stop them! The mission area is yours!
Good job, boys.
More enemies spotted. It's now or never! Stop them! They captured the mission area! Well, you can't expect to win them all.
The hyena may be one of the most misunderstood characters in the entire game. Hyena mains get flamed constantly with insults like cowardly, underhanded, and stupid, when in reality, they're one of the most interesting, powerful, and effective characters of them all. They have several abilities.
I've learned a lot about
unique
hyenas.
Advantages seen almost nowhere else in the game, and a stat spread that is undoubtedly very unorthodox for a member of the carnivorous mammal faction. So today, let's examine the stats and abilities of the hyena to get a better sense of their true strengths and weaknesses, and ultimately decide where they fall on the tier list. First, let's do a quick overview of how exactly the hyena became such a popular character to pick in the current meta. Perhaps one of the most counterintuitive facts about the hyena is that the hyena is a feliform, meaning it is more closely related to builds like lions and tigers, not wolves or bears. This is strange because clearly in terms of the majority of their basic traits, the hyena is very canine-like. There are a few different subtypes of the hyena build, but this video is going to focus mostly on the spotted hyena.
Cool.
Simply because it is by far the most
well-known?
competitively viable. But I will discuss the other subtypes later on in the video. Next, let's do an examination of the spotted hyena's base stats to see if we can pick out any obvious standout strengths or weaknesses. And right away, one thing we can spot is just how high the hyena's power stat is. The hyena's bite force is one of the highest in the game.
I'd heard about that.
When you account for size. Sure, the Nile crocodile and hippopotamus have more powerful bites, but they're all several times larger than your average hyena. But for a mid-sized carnivorous mammal, the hyena is a huge outlier in terms of its bite force.
Sorry,
moving on to mobility, this one's a bit tricky. Mobility is their second highest stat, and indeed, hyenas are quite excellent runners if viewed in a vacuum. But taken in proper context, it is a bit more of a mixed bag. The hyena actually has one of the lowest top speeds of any carnivorous mammal build in the African Savannah server. Now, top speed isn't the end-all be-all of mobility. Because of a special ability we'll discuss later, the hyena's stamina is effectively doubled compared to that of similarly sized predators, allowing it to chase other players for a greatly extended distance. Now, because of its lower top speed...
So that's what I kind of remembered. I remembered they had, like, pretty good stamina, and, like, they hunt in packs, and, like, they have kind of a symbiotic relationship with some other big cat species, like lions, I think. A lot of the times, from what I recall, they actually, kill the prey and eat some of it. And then the lions come in and eat more of it.
It usually cannot close the distance on its own during pursuit, but a lot can happen during an extended chase, and there's very little room for error when being chased by hyenas. Still, having an unimpressive top speed does present some vulnerabilities in the hyena's strategy. In addition to potentially getting dusted by your hunting target during a chase, having weaker burst mobility options gives you less opportunity to retreat should an opponent decide to counterattack. This makes it tougher to pressure opponents who are standing their ground, as you can't weave in and out of their attack range as safely, and could easily get hit for serious damage.
So your dex isn't great.
Which brings me to their next stats, HP and defense. Hyenas exhibit surprisingly high toughness in combat, being able to walk off a decent amount of damage. Still, given just how insanely stacked the African meta is, even with above average tankiness, there's still very little room for mistakes in combat. They're still nowhere near as durable as, say, the honey badger, the gold standard for
but who can out honey the honey badger, huh? They're gonna just be tough no matter what.
Absurdly high.
They don't give a shit.
Defense stats in the African server. Still, gotta give credit where it's due, hyenas can handle your average scrap just fine, which is kind of necessary due to their next stat. Their intelligence is hard to place. On one hand, they are excellent pack hunters, able to coordinate hunts and attack from multiple directions. This offsets the disadvantages of their lower movement speed a bit, and also makes their attacks very hard to defend against alone.
Kind of like killer bees!
Clans are also some of the least safe teams to be on,
do that.
with friendly fire being unique.
I was thinking killer bees, like how they surround a creature and then vibrate. But it looked bad when I did it just there with my microphone.
Commonplace. Now, most teams experience at least some dueling between clanmates, but typically this is confined either to specific seasonal events like the Rut, or as a result of a new party leader securing dominance. With Hyenas, the fights are fairly constant, especially after a successful hunt, as party members must then compete for loot. This stands in contrast to other top predators of the server, like wild dogs, which have a much less competitive process to split loot. So it's surprising that a build with such high intelligence is prone to as much friendly fire as, say, a rhinoceros. For stealth, Hyenas
I didn't know
do
that
have some
rhinoceroses
fairly
had friendly
decent
fire.
camouflage, but this is almost entirely negated by how much noise Hyenas make. Hyenas are notoriously loud, not only in their vocalizations, their signature laughs and chirps, but also their movement. Their running gait is a sort of gallop, which is significantly louder than the careful steps of other feliform predators.
And from what I remember too, even the women have cocks in the hyenas. Like, that's what I recall. That's one of the things I remember about hyenas.
Couple that with their lack of retractable claws, and they really just have a
that
very
sucks.
difficult time concealing their presence as they approach hunting targets. In fact, among their competition, hyenas are more likely to get ambushed themselves than actually pull off a surprise
that's a
attack.
bummer.
Their
So their
perception
hearing isn't
abilities
good.
are pretty typical, nothing too out of the ordinary in this department. They aren't all that good at detecting hidden players, but do have an ear for sensing commotion that they might be able to jump into.
Ah,
Their
okay.
sense of smell is also acutely attuned to being able to detect carrion, aiding them in their quest to scavenge. Next, the hyena's special abilities. There are two main ones. The first is the hyena's disease resistance. Hyenas are second only to vultures in their ability to ignore poison damage from bacteria and viruses.
Cool, good for
Now,
them.
disease resistance is pretty much always useful. It increases
Yeah.
the character's chances to recover from injury and lowers the chance of just getting one shot out of nowhere by a random illness.
Right? And it gets especially if you're going to be eating carrion, like not catching those, you can eat rotten stuff and you'll be fine. Like, that's definitely a good stat to have. But so far what I'm getting from this particular thing is they're sort of mid-tier is where I'm at right now. So it doesn't seem like they're OP.
But having a supercharged immune system is an expensive ability that comes with some downsides too. So this needs to serve a dual purpose. And in this case, it's probably pretty obvious, this ability dramatically expands the options they have to scavenge from. For most carnivorous characters, the window for scavenging a carcass closes pretty quickly, especially under the heat of the African sun.
Oh, I bet.
Careless players can easily incur the food poisoning debuff if they aren't careful picking at old remains. Hyenas can get away with being a lot less cautious in this regard. This synergizes extremely well with their high bite damage, which enables them to crack open and digest bones, a trait which puts them into a pretty exclusive club of builds which are able to reliably access marrow as a form of sustenance.
Cool.
When it comes to large bones, it's pretty much just humans, hyenas, and crocodilians that are actually able to crack them. Their second ability is their massive heart, which is roughly double the size of similar carnivorous
They're loving.
builds. This grants them effectively twice as much endurance as they otherwise would have, which
Okay.
helps offset their lack of speed outright. Even if they can't outspeed their targets, they're usually able to outlast them and catch them once they run out of stamina.
Which is how humans do it too. Like we're also endurance hunters more than anything.
There's not too much else to say.
Oh,
about
and
this.
traps and stuff. But I mean, just like we can keep going for a lot longer than other animals can.
Its ability, it's pretty straightforward, but one thing I thought might also be interesting is to talk about which abilities the hyena does not have, since I think that can oftentimes be just as informative as to which advantages and disadvantages they exhibit as talking about which abilities they do have. One of the most striking absences is retractable claws. Hyenas are part of the feliform faction, meaning that if they wanted to spec into that ability, it is available to them. In fact,
okay.
before they reallocated their evolution points into higher bite damage and disease resistance, they actually did have retractable claws, which likely would have given them higher stealth, the ability to climb, and higher slashing damage.
So what
But
made
for
it
whatever
better?
reason, the most popular strategy for the proto-hyena build needed all the help it can get in terms of run speed, so keeping the claws unretracted as a means of traction was a worthwhile sacrifice. Another interesting absence is a tail. Hyenas have extremely short tails, which locks them out of a lot of potential abilities. Now, obviously, I'm not going to rag on hyenas too hard for not having a prehensile tail or anything like that. I'm a human main myself, so it's not like I don't understand the upside of sacrificing
Oh my
access to
God, that
tail-based
poor
abilities.
cat!
But still, among carnivorous builds in the African savanna, tails can be
See, look, if you've got a cat, like you do not have, especially one with a tail like that, don't have open flames like that. Much higher, like, come on. That's on the human.
counterweights that
That was
provide stability
foolish.
during a chase, lowering the chances that a player might trip and fall if they take a wrong step. It's interesting, one of the benefits to not having a long
fall down
tail
a
is
lot.
just that it's one less thing that other players can attack. Given that hyenas heavily favor attacking the back end of a target, and even have been
Ugh.
known to bite off tails, I have to wonder if hyenas simply have been opting for shorter tails just so that they don't get griefed by their fellow hyena mains. Next, let's talk about their
Fair.
matchups. Given that they compete for the same prey, the most important matchup for hyenas is the lion matchup. Unfortunately, even though hyenas have a much higher bite force, in 1v1 combat the lion's reach advantage and size advantage are too powerful, resulting in this being an almost completely one-sided matchup. A few paw swipes comboed into a bite to the neck will zero to death a hyena basically every time, and there's not much counterplay a hyena has alone.
No, they have to cut pack
able to sprint
together
faster over short distances, so the hyena can't even run away. Hyena mains are often depicted as thieves, and while they do often steal kills when they get a chance, when it comes to lions it's almost always the other way around. Lion players love to score free loot by chasing away hyenas, and unfortunately even with the whole squad together, it only takes a few lions to drive them away. Now, not all is lost in this scenario.
I think I said that earlier, right? I think that's what I said, like the hyenas will like kill something and then the lion comes in and takes the rest. I think I said that earlier. I was thinking it. I said something along those lines, but I might have gotten things a little mixed up, but I was thinking it this way.
One of the situations where the bone-crushing bite is most useful, as there's still...
Oh no, what I said was like they have a kind of symbiotic relationship, which was the hyenas come in and kill something and then the lion takes it, which isn't symbiotic. That's not what I meant. But I was thinking the one that's not parasitic. It's in something in the middle. What's that called? I'm so dumb. I don't know. It's the one that's not symbiotic and not parasitic, but there's another kind of relationship.
Lots of bone marrow left after lions finish looting the kill that only hyenas can access.
Okay.
But still, this matchup is rough, and it's hard to even imagine what ways the hyena could respec in order to challenge the lion. Lions are really the only problematic matchup though. Hyenas go pretty even with leopards, with the only real pain point being the hyena's lack of ability to climb. Leopards exploit this by dragging their kills up into trees, where hyenas can't contest. But this also puts the leopard in a pretty vulnerable position, and if the hyena clan is large enough, they can essentially trap the leopard player. And as for cheetahs, I mean, do I really even need to say anything? They pretty much have to avoid hunting anywhere near hyenas, otherwise their efforts are all but guaranteed to be
That makes sense.
Cheetahs have essentially no options when it comes to defending their kills from
What's with the hyena and then a bunch of people from Baldur's Gate on the side there?
hyenas. And they can't climb either, so there's nowhere to stash their loot for later. So with all this being said, where do hyenas belong on the tier list? This is where some distinction between the different hyena variants is necessary. The striped hyena and brown hyena both have a lower power stat and mobility stat than the spotted hyena, and focus more heavily on scavenging. Instead, they put more points into defense and perception, aiding them in finding carrion far away. Ultimately, I consider these builds to be a lot less viable, as they have to rely on griefing noobs and janitoring in order to get by.
Cheetahs.
I would rank them in C tier.
Oh, okay, so he's giving
however,
regular
is a much different
hyenas
story. It is legitimately one of the most powerful builds in the entire African metagame, and can hold its own amid some intense hostilities. Its special abilities enable it to subvert some of the downsides that come with sharing territory with a larger predator. However, much as I am tempted to be a contrarian and give them the rank of S tier, I don't think anything about the hyena is truly game warping enough to merit that top tier rank.
I think they'll put them in a B.
Bad matchups, and even for their more evenly matched ones, they can't get careless. Still, there's no doubt hyenas are a serious force to be reckoned with, and easily deserve the rank of A tier. Among hyenas,
I would have given him a
fire
B,
isn't a mistake. It's part of the meta. When high-value loot is on the line, trust goes out the window. If you've ever wanted to see me embrace that same cutthroat strategy, you need to check out The Getaway. In this series, 6 content creators, including yours truly, compete for a $10,000 prize. But there's a twist. They told me I'm the traitor. The real twist? They told everyone else the same thing. This was made possible by the team behind Half is Interesting and Jetlag the Game. And you can only watch it on Nebula. Nebula is a creator-owned platform where we make the content we want, free from algorithmic shifts and demonetization. It's where you'll find extended cuts, behind-the-scenes content, and experimental projects that wouldn't quite fit anywhere else. Best of all, signing up not only gets you early access to my videos, but also exclusive originals from other great creators, like Real Science's Becoming Human, Real Life Lore's Modern Conflicts, and of course, The Getaway. And if you find something you need to share, new subscribers get guest passes, so you can send a friend a free week of Nebula. That way, after you both watch The Getaway, you can properly debrief about that moment when the alpaca spat in my mouth. Use or the QR code on screen to get 40% off Nebula. That's just $36 for the whole year or $3 a month at go.nebula.tv/TierZoo. So check out The Getaway now. Huge thanks to Nebula for supporting this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, good luck out there.
Thank you much, Lee. Fun. Okay, so I definitely had something that was like a little bit, some wires crossed in my head there. And I still don't know that word. But it's the third kind of relationship. I don't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. Tell me what it is. Tell me how dumb I am in the comments. And thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.